What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your host, Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new episode reviews. We're set to get in Star Wars Skeleton Crew, episode number 3. Sit back, relax, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Welcome back, fellow A-Plusers, fellow Force users. It is I, your host, Adam Perez, back once again with another quarter, I should say, of our Jedi Council. Will M. Polk from Scene and Nerd. What's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. What's up, Adam? Thanks for having me back.
Of course, man. Of course. Things have
Yeah,
been going pretty good. I gotta say, man, I've been looking forward to Tuesdays for new episodes of Skeleton Crew, especially after the first 2 episodes. We
yeah,
wind up getting ourselves a third episode here this week. We don't have the full council. I did reach out to Crystal. Crystal will be here next week.
great.
And Stuart did have some issues with scheduling over at work. He says everybody called out, so they asked him to work tonight. So he planned on being here, but he got called in,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So I am expecting the full council next week for us.
Cool. Well, I'm happy to be here, and also here, Sarah, my
Hey.
host, is here in spirit. She actually got me this Andor, this Rebel Alliance hoodie, so I figured, you know, I would have the full crew here tonight, even though she's not here in body, she is here in spirit.
Oh man, that's a fantastic hoodie. You did good, Sarah. You did good. Incredible, man. I will say this. I'm not that big of a tattoo guy.
Mhm.
I've got one tattoo on my back, and I have always wanted to get like a half a sleeve or something. That feels a little bit too ambitious to me.
Yeah,
But I do think that the next tattoo I get, it's got to be something Star Wars related, man. I need some sort
yeah.
of Star Wars collage or something going on here. Do you have any Star Wars tattoos or any tattoos at all, Will?
No, I am. I'm not inked at all, but yeah, I thought about it for a few times, but even had some like temporary ones back in the '90s, just to see how it would look, but never pulled a trigger.
I got you. Yeah, no, I got this done when I was like maybe late 20s. I honestly forget that I even have it, to be honest with you. Like it's just I honestly forget until I see myself in the mirror. So look, man, we got a lot to talk about here today. Episode 3 wind up dropping. I definitely got some thoughts on it. So we'll go ahead and give our brief thoughts. Maybe we'll get into some particular details and dig a little bit deeper. And then towards the end of the show, we'll give you guys our official grade for episode number 3. And look, as we go through our discussion points, just remember at the end of the day, these are simply just our A+ opinions, but we always want to go ahead and know yours. So let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box after we wrap up today's episode. But let's go ahead and dive into this, Will. 3 episodes in. I definitely would love to hear your thoughts first on what you thought about episode 3, man. So overall, how'd you feel about it?
Felt good about it. It definitely confirms that the show's not, it's not a fluke that the first 2 episodes are really good. I think the third episode, I always have the 3 episode rule as far as whether I'm going to continue in a series or not, and this episode definitely did that for me. I think it really, at the end of the day, I think Jude Law is really carrying this show. And not to disparage the kids, I think the kid actors are doing great, but I think what makes this show work is the charisma and what Jude is doing with this character. I also feel like they are respecting the audience, and as far as not insulting our intelligence, as far as like the story, which I think sometimes I think that was some of the flaws sometimes with with Andor, with not Andor, excuse me, with Acolyte. Thinking Andor with a hoodie on here. Uh, but no, with the Acolyte, I think, there were times they didn't, like, respect us as audience members. There is a lot of exposition in this show, but it's done in a way that, carries the narrative forward, and, it's letting us in on the mystery. And we all we thought last week that uh, Captain Silva was indeed the John Norwood, or that we saw at the beginning of this episode whenever he was introducing himself, and they confirmed that in universe. But we're sort of the observers looking at the kids, go through this mystery in this show, and it's just fun to watch the kids like go through that and try to ferret out who this person is that broke them out of the brig. So I'm enjoying the show so far. It's a fun watch.
Yeah, man. I had a really fantastic time with this episode. I had a blast. There was actually a moment where I literally stood up from my couch and I finished like the last 5-10 minutes, like just standing because I found myself just sort of in the adventure of it all. You know what
Mhm,
I mean? It was really, they were really able to go ahead and suck me in. And I would agree with you. 3 episodes in, the first two, it's always great to kind of see, all right, well, how are you going to start off? How are you going to sort of set up this series? And can you kind of keep that momentum? And I personally thought they did a fantastic job and really even built that momentum for me to want to come
mhm,
back for an episode 4. Again, I gave this man a shout out last week. I'm going to give him another one. David Lowery comes back and directs this episode once again, and I think because of the fact that David Lowery and John Watts and Christopher Ford have such a close past with each other. I think they just really are fantastic in helping elevate the work of each other. I think his directing style helps elevate the writing of John Watts in here and Christopher Ford. And for me, when I watched this episode, there's just a level of stakes that are at play. There's also a sense of wonder, and there's also a sense of um what was the other word? I just had the other word on the tip of my tongue like all day long. There's just a deliberateness about it. There is just something about like moving the story forward that I really do appreciate. I think Jude Law is fantastic. I was a really big fan of just like his chemistry, especially with the kids in here. The way that, especially when it comes to Fern, I really love
mhm,
the back and forth between Jude Law as an actor and the actress that's playing Fern in here. Like he's got this side glance to him to when he looks at her in the sense of like you could tell he's thinking this girl's gonna be a problem.
mhm,
Like she like out of all of them, she's clearly the bright and clever one, and I'm gonna have to really work sort of overtime for it. But there is just a sense of wonder to this show that I don't know if I wasn't expecting it, but to introduce us to a character like Kh'ymm at the end. I thought she was an incredible design as the owl. I remember seeing the owl in the trailer, and the design alone hyped me up. But to then be able to see her in action and um, everything that comes with her and how she helped move the story forward in here, I thought she was just a brilliant
mhm,
part to it. It kind of reminds me of when I think of things like Dark Crystal or Never
mhm.
Ending Story. It's just that fantastical world of wonder that you're thrusted in, and you've got great music that's accompanying this episode too. Incredible special effects, whether that be the designs of the planet, the moon, the escape at the end going up against the X-wing fighters. There was just a real sense of wonder for me that I honestly just fell in love with this episode. And I thought the pacing in this was really great too. And so yeah, man, David Lowery as the director does it again, really uplifting John Watts's writing work. And like you said, Jude Law, not against nothing against the other kids, because I think they're fantastic opposite of him, but just clearly having that expertise and that experience, just the mannerisms, and
Mhm.
like his working with David Lowery in the past too, I think helps. But you can see David Lowery really knows how to get the most when it comes to performances out of his actors, adults or kids. And I honestly thought everybody shined in this episode.
Yeah, I completely agree. I completely agree. And one thing you did mention about the sense of wonder and with the good mix of both the practical effect with like the puppets and we're seeing the droids, with we see the battle droid from I think from the Taco
Oh,
from Phantom
the Phantom
Menace.
Menace. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Did we
It's
win?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the owl too. I mean, again, just using the puppet, the puppetry work is it with that is also makes it work, and it's just it's just a I did not have high expectations going into this show because I've been let down so much recently by this franchise, Andor except with the exception of Andor, but the yeah, I mean it's a like I said at the outset, it's a fun watch. I just really just sit back and kind of get your popcorn and enjoy it for the ride because I think it's not really it really is designed to appeal to kids, to get new characters into the Star Wars universe and get a new set of people instead of just relying on nostalgia. I mean, they are relying on nostalgia, but it's not, the Han and Leia and Luke nostalgia. It's really, for people like us who are older, it's like the references to, like you mentioned, Dark Crystal and Never Ending Story, and well, clearly the biggies, the Goonies. But
Yeah.
for kids, it's just like new. They don't, they're coming into it fresh, and it's like Star Trek Prodigy was for in the Star Trek universe, where you're trying to get a next generation of fans into this let's just call it what it is, 40-year-old story.
Yeah, the word I was definitely looking for was urgency.
Mm,
Like there's an urgency about the episode that I appreciate. In the beginning of this episode where, they're clearly trying to escape. He's got
mhm,
to go back to get SM-33, and then
yeah,
he's trying to get back to the ship. But then it also comes in part with pacing,
mhm,
because then they give
yeah,
you a chance to breathe. They have a great moment of everybody on the ship. Jude Law's character, Jod Na Nawood, I believe it. Jod, I'm
mhm,
just gonna call him Jod. His interaction with SM-33, and then the urgency again to get away at the end, get
yeah,
away from the X-wing fighters, while at the same time the kids not wanting him to get on the ship, right? So it's
yeah,
just like at the same time, it's like, oh my god, like let's go get on the ship, but it's just I just really love the way that they are
yeah.
kind of telling the story for sure.
Yeah, yeah, the pacing, it definitely was much better this week. The episode really went on at a good clip, and it had the right moments of exposition, or when it needed it. It had the right moments of comedy when it needed it. Like the example that you just shared there with the whole, you coming on with this or not, or whenever they were with Kh'ymm and trying to figure out the coordinates for At Atkin, and then they played it just the right amount to whenever Ja says you're stalling, but it worked there because they didn't drag that scene out too long, so that whenever you know we as a viewer and the folks in the universe are like, oh, we come to it at the same time, like, oh yeah, she's stalling because she's waiting for the New Republic to get here.
Yeah, I will say when it comes to the New Republic and the X-wing fighters, I was expecting the guy from the Mandalorian to step out.
I was too. I was too. Yeah.
I am really curious why they didn't necessarily go that route, especially because we know that it is taking place during that same time
Mhm.
period as
Yeah.
Mandalorian, maybe kind of parallel depending on what a particular season. So I really would have loved to have seen that connective tissue. Granted, there were two X-wing fighters. We don't know who was in the
Mhm.
other one, but I honestly would have thought that they would have just utilized the same guy. I thought that would have been great connective tissue.
Totally. I was thinking that same thing too. Actually, and I was watching the episode on my phone, and so I wasn't. So at first I was just like squinting, just like, is that? No, it's not him. Gosh, I can't remember I can't remember the actor's name, but I've
Yeah, I
seen.
can't remember
I
either.
know he's like. I know he's been in The Mandalorian, I guess, for season 3 and also 2,
Yeah, I
maybe
think
as
he was
well. Yeah,
popped in too, also. Yeah, if I'm not
yeah, yeah,
mistaken.
yeah.
Um, I'm trying to think, was he in one also? He
He
might have,
might have.
maybe he was in the finale. I think maybe he might have been in the finale of season
Yeah,
one. I might be
yeah,
tripping. Um, but yeah, you know what? This show does have really great levity to it. I think it the humor is definitely there. I continue to love the chemistry between the kids, especially when they're finally on their ship and they're arguing over as to whether or not he's a
yeah.
Jedi.
Hmm.
How could he move things, using the Force? And Fern's trying to come up with all these excuses. Just little things also like at Neil snoring
Yeah,
on the ship, like he's snoring through his trunk.
yeah, yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny. So I think they've got really great humor. Oh, especially one of the lines that made me laugh was when they're getting ready when they finally escape and they're going to the ship, and Jod is trying to figure out which ship is theirs. And
Yeah,
Wim's kind of embarrassed to talk about it. And Neil has this great line. He says, it smells funny. Like
yeah,
like it just made me laugh. And I love that when they do get to this ship, I don't know if it was just because of how they described it, if they added additional effects to it, but like there's like this when you look at the ship, there's almost like this stench
Yeah.
around it. It's almost like this smoke and like this haze to kind of
Mhm.
really give off all the descriptions that the kids just gave about it. And it
Yeah.
really made me chuckle when he came around the corner and realized this is the ship that
Yeah.
they're in.
Exactly. I couldn't help but think about, what with, uh, New Hope whenever Leia goes to Han, "You came in that?"
Yeah, it's or even the what is it, the Rey and Finn moment on
Yeah.
Force Awakens. They're like, "Oh, we can
Mhm.
take this trash. We'll take the trash," and they turn
Yeah.
it's the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
So yeah, great moments of levity in here, man. But again, shout out to Jude Law. I think he played up his part extremely well. One of the things that I did love about Jude Law in here too, we do come to learn a little bit more about his character in the sense
Mhm.
that he's also got another
Yeah.
name that he goes by in Crimson Jack in here.
Mhm.
So now we know him by three different names: Captain
Yeah.
Silvo, Jod, and now Crimson Jack. And I love his outburst a little bit towards the end too, when they ask him for the truth, and he says, "Look, I'm lost, I'm lonely,
Mhm.
I'm alone," sort of thing, in the sense of trying to relate to the kids a little bit. What do you take away from that in regards to a little bit more insight into him?
Yeah, yeah, like I said, I think they're letting us in on the mystery, of this character, and we know he has at least 3 aliases, and but with each alias, there's a story there because, Brutus, the pirate, leader, has clearly his run-ins. Of course, Kim had her both. It's funny with both Kim and, Ja, they both were, like, mutually accusing each other of being backstabbers, and then and it came true.
Yeah.
and and then of course, he ran into, with the Captain Silvo, alias. He ran into one of his old mates, who actually was voiced by, Alfred Molina.
Yeah, I heard
Um,
about that.
yeah, and so again, there's so much to mine there over the remaining episodes as far as figuring out how all these aliases are intertwined into his story, and especially when like you said, when he has the outburst with the kids that I'm lost too, and so because at least with the kids he also had an alias of being a Jedi. So we got at least 4 aliases or things that he's like putting himself out as, and I think all of them are interrelated, and I think we're going to be along for the journey as far as finding out all how all these things are interrelated, and of course the kids will be the vessels that will be used to like draw all these things out as we go further along in the season.
Yeah, I do expect all of them to certainly interconnect at some point, and I'm hoping that we get ourselves, similar to how the Acolyte, we got ourselves several flashback sequences.
Mm,
I do hope we get at least one episode that's sort of devoted to letting us know about Jude Law character's past and Jod, and really seeing how his story kind of comes together. I think for me, I was really fascinated to see how he really leaned into the concept of being a Jedi without ever mentioning that he was a Jedi. The kids even say, "Well, I thought you said you were a Jedi." He's like, "Oh, I didn't quite say that," but
yeah.
I do love the lines in which Jod delivered in order to imply that he knew what he was talking about, right? Like even when
Mm,
Wim mentioned, I can't remember, in their escape, Wim mentioned something, and he says, "I can see that you're strong in the Force, so that you know much about the Force," right? Like he's
yeah.
really feeding into Wim's love of the Jedi, because like we mentioned before, right? Like Wim is the type that's just gonna eat this up,
Yeah.
and we it definitely showed in here. And granted, as he learns more about Jod, I do wonder if he'll still feed into that, because it's like he sees him clearly using these abilities, but I do wonder if he's going to be smarter about the idea, like, yeah, something is really up here. Even KB kind of called him out on it and was like, look, the odds of you being a Jedi are pretty slim, and he
Hmm.
still uses sort of his Force abilities to kind of turn off the light and even give somebody like KB to start questioning it a little bit, right? So
Right.
clearly it doesn't seem like he's a Jedi, but I do love how Jude Law flaw as an actor, really leaned into it. Even when again when they were going to escape and they hid behind the wall after KB said, "Wait, somebody's coming." and
Yeah,
and Fern is like, "Oh, well, maybe KB's got the force in him, force in her," and he's like, "The force works through us all," or something. Like
yeah,
he's just
yeah.
he really leans into it, and I
He
thought
does.
I thought the dialogue in here was really brilliant here this week. And so I do love that he plays along with it for certainly as long as he could, and it does add to his story because I don't think he's making it up. I don't think there's no tricks that Fern thinks that is. I do think that he does have force abilities. Whether or not it's something that he once was, was he like somebody that was at Order 66 and escaped? Is that why he's lost? Has he lost in the sense of, maybe he was trained, but over the years he hasn't trained and he's kind of
Mhm.
lost his way in that sense, and so he can still do things, but he's really changed his life around and become more pirate than anything in order to kind of survive, right? So it is going to be interesting to see like how his story kind of fully comes together. I really don't know. Like this is me just kind of putting pieces together, but um I it does feel very much like there's either some level of training, whether it be professional or he just trained himself because he is force sensitive. But when he talks about the idea of like this is my big score, like clearly there is a greed that certainly drives him where he feels more pirate than anything else. So I'm
Yeah.
really fascinated to see how this journey changes him certainly as a character. If the idea of, hey, I've got these abilities, maybe I should use them for something better, if that's what we get by him at the end of this at the end of the season, I don't know, but I'm intrigued for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's part of the journey. Maybe he is a lost Jedi, or, because again, we are in, yeah, we're post Battle of Endor, and and appear, this is clearly, uh, they drop enough references in universe. For example, with Kim mentioning Alderaan, and
Yeah.
well, and the Great War, and the kids were like, oh, what are you talking about, this war? So so this again reinforces that how At Atkin really has been sheltered from all the conflict that has happened in the Galactic War up to this point. Um,
Y-
and it really, and something you talked about last week with the Old Republic and some of the proto, and things that had with the Proto Republic in this episode. I thought about our conversation last week. I was like, Adam, Adam nailed it. You mentioned that there was something with the Great Works and how that was tied to, Old Republic or pre Old Republic stuff from some, and there it was with the maps and the jewel of the what was the map called, the jewel of the Old Republic?
the jewels of the old republic, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, so clearly Adak can, and of course Kim talking about how all the, how they went to lengths to remove, what was it, astrogamma or something like that, to hide some of these systems, and especially when they were describing the describing things. So, there's definitely something there as far as why, how they address the fact that that this planet has been sheltered from all the conflict in the galaxy, and then but also opens up the door for some additional things to to explore during the season.
Yeah, one of the things that fascinates, last week when we did talk about it, I was kind of under the impression maybe it was during the High Republic era,
Mhm, yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, yeah.
because of Chancellor Lena So and her great works. The way that they talk about it, though, they do mention the term Old Republic, so it almost makes me wonder if it's even older than that now.
Yeah.
Granted, the High Republic does go back maybe what 1,000 years before
Mhm.
Phantom Menace. I can't remember exactly the timeline, but there's a part of me that almost thinks that now, like if it is Old Republic, like maybe even predates the High Republic stuff that
Yeah.
we kind of talked about a little bit. But this definitely goes back because I mean you're right. I mean she references the idea that At Attin purposefully hidden from the rest of the galaxy, and Kim says planets of wonder kept hidden for their own protection.
Mhm.
She also stated all other planets were destroyed except for At Attin. So it's clearly the only one that's kind of left standing. I would assume this whole entire map here are all the planets of wonder. I'm not gonna lie. When she talks about things like this, I start thinking to myself of the acolyte, like maybe another planet with a virgins on it.
Mhm.
There's even like another. There's an old book that I read that was Legends or EU now called a rogue planet where it was like literally like a
Mhm.
living planet sort of thing. It just makes my mind go to like all these fantastical elements that have been thrown into Star Wars in the past of like what about these planets make them so sort of wondrous.
Yeah.
And clearly this was one that I don't know if it has any additional abilities or if this is just one that is filled with treasure of some
Yeah.
sort.
Yeah.
And I do love the kid. I do love too the idea that the kids are trying to figure things out on their own too. Like
Mhm.
when they finally do get back on the ship, the idea that they're kind of sitting with those thoughts of like, what do our parents do? Right? Like, Atten is
Yeah.
so boring. How can our planet be like this eternal treasure trove? Like, what
Yeah.
is it that people actually do here? And the fact that they're trying to now put this stuff together, I think is really brilliant on their part. But then it just reinforces their own thoughts when they do meet somebody like Kim, and she's like, yeah, like your planet's a really special one.
Yeah.
So I am fascinated to kind of learn more about this. I kind of wish that they stuck with Kim a little bit longer though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I need her more than one episode. Do you think we see her again?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, because she does mention to KB like, look, if things don't go well with Crimson Jack, give me a call sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's just not. I don't think that's a one-off character. I mean, there's just so. I think just what she has shared with them is relevant to the story, and also I think this so far what I've seen with this show is just very intentional as far as like things that they introduce. So uh
Yeah,
we're
like I thought it was really smart that we got introduced to the symbol in the previous
Mhm.
couple episodes,
Yeah.
and the symbol was utilized in
Mhm.
here for her to break down and kind of coordinate where their
Yeah.
planet might be. I thought that was a really cool find.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. So yeah, so I think we'll see him again.
I hope so, man. And shout out to those the set designers for
Yeah.
Kim's observatory. I mean,
Mhm.
really cool concept of it. Like the not only the fact that she's got a cool looking telescope, but to go into her room, have floors that rotate along
Mhm.
with them, having stacks of books and trinkets, and
Yeah,
I don't know what type of banners were hanging down, but I just thought it was a really brilliantly designed set piece for the observatory.
for sure.
I did have one question though.
Yeah.
I know they're on the moon. How are they breathing in space though? Like they literally just stepped off the spaceship and are just walking on the dunes of the moon craters here. And I'm like, how are they breathing in space?
Yeah, Star Wars science.
I was like, where's
Spend
the
this.
atmosphere? Did they
Yeah,
terraform this one section? Like, can I
it,
somebody explain this to me?
maybe it's a dome or something. We just didn't see it.
Could be. Yeah, could be. Um, But yeah, man. So I'm really fascinated to learn more about the Jewels of the Old Republic. How far back does this really go? I hope they give us more like definitive answers as we go along. Um, and I also really love their escape sequence in here too. Like
Yeah.
it's for me it was really fun because two things. One, I thought the special effects in here were really great.
Mhm.
The planet designs, the dust storm that they wind up creating as they're trying to mask
Yeah.
their way of getting
Yeah.
out, I thought was really neat. But also they give the kids an opportunity to sort of like this felt like a full crew on moment. Like this felt like
Mhm.
a commitment to what they were going to do. Like knowing that, hey, we've got Jod, who we clearly cannot trust, but being smart enough to leverage him into a position of you work for us now.
Mhm.
which I thought was brilliant by the kids. They got some really clever kids in this
Yeah,
crew, but not only to leverage him, but also finally just accept this is our crew, like this is us, and they
yeah.
all seemingly worked like in a really well sort of oiled machine. Seeing the two kids get into the gunner positions, Neil, KB, and or I should say, yeah, Neil, KB, and Jod navigating and flying. I had a fantastic time seeing them kind of all come together finally.
Yeah, yeah, that's again the pacing not only for the clip of the episode, but also just the pacing of the series itself. I mean, it's not they're not drawing things out. It's just we're getting from point A to point B to point C, and and really the kids becoming a cohesive unit with Ja, and yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that whole sequence again just really gets to that whimsical, that adventure that we that you would that we would expect to see in this type of show now, and I think we'll get those kind of set pieces all throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, I really hope so. It really came together fantastically well, I thought. I do want to talk a little bit about the crew's family in here also. This is the kind of the beginning portion of this episode here, where they're kind of waiting to find out what's going on with everything. And it's only like a 2-3 minute sequence, but a couple things really stood out to me. One, dad looks like he's ready to take matters into his own hands. I mean, when you see the dad take his glasses off, it's like it's done. Like this man, he's given up hope that he's gonna get help from the outside, and it's like dad duty time. Like he's like, I gotta find my kids. Once he took the glasses off, I was like, this man means business right now.
Yep.
And I do another question. KB's parents,
Mhm.
her mom's mentioned the idea of her having a life monitor. Um, do you think that KB's got some sort of issues going on with her? Like somebody I thought mentioned, I can't remember who it was, or somebody commented on our last video. The gentleman that from Empire Strikes Back,
Oh
he
yeah,
worked
Lobot.
with Lobot, saying that she
Yeah,
has Lobot technology.
yeah,
How do you think that plays into what the parents just mentioned here about her having a life monitor? I don't even know
yeah. I
how
mean,
Lobot technically works.
yeah, yeah. I know there was I think there was a Lobot backstory one of the Star Wars comic books, maybe 10, 15 years ago or something like that. But actually, I may even have it. May got it from Free Comic Book Day or something like that. But I digress. But yeah, with KB, we she does have that Geordie kind of Lobot tech, and it seems that it's more than just a fancy headset piece. It definitely does. Maybe it is some. Maybe she does have some kind of medical condition or something like that that requires her to have it, um, and and with that, it does give her some cybernetic capabilities. Like we do see her doing things like calculating the odds for whether or not he's a Jedi and that kind of thing. So I think those things are interrelated, and maybe we'll get more information about it as we move forward.
You know, when they're escaping and Fern does this is like, oh, well, maybe KB's got the force too. There's a part of me that does wonder how she figured out somebody was coming around the corner.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
even though he jokes like, the force works through us all, there's a part of me that in my head I'm just like, huh. Like I am curious.
yeah,
And so it would not surprise me if we come to find out that out of this group, maybe KB does have some force sensitive abilities at the end of the
yeah,
day.
yeah. I mean, I think it's been pretty well established now. I mean, we've seen, we saw it in Rogue One. We've seen it in other iterations. People can be force sensitive, and so it's very possible that's the case here.
Yeah, that's just speculation on my part. And I just have one big question too. Who is the supervisor? We've heard about the
Hmm.
supervisor over and over again. I got to expect that there's going to be a big reveal here at some point in time. And I do wonder if it's somebody that we may be aware of. Um, but I am really curious. It says I put in my notes. It says supervisor worried it will risk contact. So it seems like they're kind of giving up hope in regards to trying to get them back. In regards to, hey, it's better for us to protect
I
ourselves as a planet.
Yeah, I think the supervisor is definitely tied to the whole jewel to the map, and why, and it really gets to why this planet was taken off the star charts to protect the treasures that, and it makes sense for why people think it is like Atlantis, I guess, in the Star Wars universe. That this is mythical place that is center of learning, and and those kind of things, and wonder. But of course, it's just, because we think about the first two episodes, particularly episode two, when they're on the in the power place. They were,
Yeah.
whenever the kids were talking about, oh, at Atkin, they were like, oh, that's a myth. I mean, that's, so I think the supervisor is definitely tied to that, and whether or not it's tied to, if we do, given that it references the old republic, and all, and why they're shielded from the great conflict, maybe that supervisor was uh, put into place, when Palpatine came to power, and really was trying
Mm.
to protect this world from the Galactic Empire.
Yeah, it is pretty startling just how removed they are from everything. I mean, you did mention, them mentioning, when Kim asks them, like, what are some of the surrounding planets? And they say, oh, we learned about Coruscant and Alderaan.
Hmm.
And then they get the Alderaan comment, like, oh, wow, like you guys really
Yeah.
have, you really missed out on a lot. So they definitely have been shielded, to say the least. But there was a part of me, I think, just from one of the trailers that I remember seeing, it looks like there's a scene maybe where we get the dad maybe doing his own kind of research kind of in secret. There's a scene where he's sitting down in front of something and he
Mm.
looks, and he's got the robots coming around the corner. He looks really nervous. So I do
Yeah.
wonder if Pops is going to get involved in regards to finding out the truth about, like, why they can't leave the planet, why is there a barrier, like what the secret of At Attin is. And for me, I think it would be really fun to kind of see different perspectives informing us about the viewer,
Mhm.
like different pieces of Atten's history at different times. I think that'd be pretty cool. Like Jod learning something, the kids learning something, and the father learning something. And as viewers, we kind of put the story together. I think that'd be pretty cool if it turns out that way.
Yeah, that would be cool. I have gotten to this place where I try to avoid trailers, because I just wanted to see the series for what as it is,
I feel you, man.
yeah, so I don't remember that particular moment that you're talking about, but yeah, but I agree. I think having a different perspectives, and because we clearly do have some type of mystery that's going to be solved by the Scooby Doo gang here with the kids, and Ja. So yeah, that would be nice to see everybody just taking elements of it from their various perspectives. Especially like
Um,
now with the parents, like, the kids, whenever they were like told that the kids are like, went outside the barrier, and we saw the reaction whenever, not only this, natural reaction that, worry parents, but also just the larger stakes for what that actually means, as far as, whatever laws they have on the planet, as far as like not going beyond that barrier.
yeah, then I thought they said something that it's like a felony or something like that if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
leave or something like damn,
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah, it's pretty, yeah, it's like a yeah, it's like, yeah, pretty almost like a death penalty for like if you like
it feels
leave
like it.
it feels like it the way they like played it up, so
Like extradite you off the planet if you mess up or something like that,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But that's kind of like even the idea that there's no like space charts. I mean, who knows if there's even like a hyperspace lane that leads
yeah,
to this planet? So it's like how do
yeah.
you get
I mean,
back? And
yeah, I mean, they pretty much made it pretty clear that pretty much all traces of this planet have been removed, even even the hyperspace lane. So yeah, yeah, I think I think part of the adventure is going to be them trying to reconstruct a method to find the planet,
you
to
might
return
be,
the kids.
yeah, you might be right because even though after they escape Kim's place, Jod winds up taking like the data chip. You know, when the X-wing fighter asks us like where did the kids go, and she's like, you wouldn't believe me if I told you. Like,
Mhm.
one, I don't necessarily know if that data chip is going to lead them directly back home to At
Yeah.
Attin. Almost feels like maybe it's like the next journey point to, like you said, getting a little bit closer to home, or finding something that will help take them to where they need to go.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool concept. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
here for all the building blocks.
Oh, totally, and I think I saw a comment from John Watts. I mean, I think the way this series, I think this season does have a conclusion, but I think they definitely have the openings for the for a second and subsequent seasons. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, do they even get back home by the end of this
yeah,
season?
yeah,
But yeah, 'cause I do remember hearing him talk about the idea that yes, they have plans for a second season, and he kind of wants us to follow along with the kids as they kind of grow up. And so
mhm,
maybe we get a future time jump here. And if anything, I think for me, the most fascinating concept of that is, with there being such a big gap between now and something like the First Order for the Force Awakens, what do these kids grow up to be? Like, what
mhm,
other impacts do they end up having in the overall galaxy? Like, I find that kind of stuff really appealing.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, those are just our overall thoughts for the episode, diving into some concepts and some ideas. Overall, I know we've talked about a lot of things here, but what are some of your pros? Like, what are some of the things that really stood out to you that you really enjoyed about this week's episode?
Yeah, the pros again. I think we really touched on them. I think the pacing was definitely was very good. Really filling out the Jude Law's character just with get learning another alias and also him playing with the force, but also the interactions between him and the kids. I think it was just very natural and very you know it had its fun moments, had the right it hit the right balance for me. So I like I said, with this being the third episode, it was kind of it's that make or break episode, and it was definitely something there enough there that I was like, oh yeah, I'm on board, and really want to see how this story unfolds. So I'm really enjoying the series. So so far.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the series also, man. I've been really pleasantly surprised. 3 episodes in, I would piggyback right off of you too. I think the chemistry with Jude Law's character Jod and the rest of the kids really work. I love the back and forth between him and Fern in here. Again, I thought the directing work was fantastic, and incredible special effects too. And there's also a great moment. Like I said, pacing, the urgency behind it, along with the stakes, I thought was really brilliantly handled in here. And I also will give a shout out to SM33.
Mm,
I really enjoyed in this episode. I don't think we really touched upon it, but one of the pros that I had was his interactions with
mhm,
Jod in here, and really
yeah,
kind of drawn the line in the sense of, like, this is my captain, these are my kids, like, I'm gonna
yeah,
very much the protective kind of droid, not giving up too much information, especially when he asks, like, do you believe that these kids are from At? And he's like, they're from somewhere, like, he's like,
yeah,
that's all the information I'm gonna give you. But I really love the backing, and I also love him really standing up to Jod in the sense of, like,
yeah,
letting him know he's got the bigger presence in the room, right? Like, I think there's just something really cool about a droid taking those little kind of movements. So shout out to
yeah,
the puppeteer too, of just growing the couple of extra inches above him
yeah,
to let him know,
yeah.
like,
That was a good moment.
I thought that was a really great moment in here. So I really continue to enjoy SM33, which I've seen this on Twitter all the time, and it blows my mind that people are referring to him as Shmi, because you could
Yeah.
reverse the double
Hmm.
threes to E's, so it works really well from like Peter Pan and Captain Hook sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Any cons? What didn't you care for in this episode?
You know, nothing really stuck out to me that like just
Yeah.
bothered me this week. I mean, this was one of those episodes that just really, really worked for me. I don't. I
Yeah.
mean, it would be at this point, it would be like just nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I had a reason, but that's just nitpicking, and I brought it up kind of jokingly in the sense of like, how do they breathe in space? Like they literally
Yeah,
just came off the ship and they're breathing on a moon. But that just feels very nitpicky to me, honestly, as well. So like outside from that, I really didn't have any cons this week, to be
yeah.
honest with you. So yeah, let's with that out of the way, it is time to grade this week's episode, man. So far, if you guys want to go ahead and grade along with us, we have a legend at the bottom. We'll give our percentage point and our grade for it. Episode 1, I believe we graded out at an 84, so it came in at a B. Episode 2 last week came in at an 88, carrying home a B plus. Um, Will,
Mhm.
what's your grade this week, man?
I'm gonna give it an A minus.
Oh, hey man, I think that's the first A you have given
That's
any
the
Star Wars episode we've
It
watched.
is. It is.
I love it,
It's,
man.
yeah, they came in with a solid 90.
Oh, 90. Okay, cool. Very cool. Very cool. I dig it. I dig it. Yeah, last week I gave last week's episode an A. Um, you know, and that was really on the back of David Lowery and his incredible directing work. Um, I can't remember what I get as an A. You know what? I might give out my first A plus, bro. I'm gonna give
Oh,
out my first A
okay.
plus this week. I'll probably come down to a 96, maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe if they had it a little bit longer of an episode, maybe I probably would have been a higher A plus. But you know what? I'm gonna give it an A plus, man. I really had a fantastic time with this episode. I mean, when you're able to literally get me out of my seat for like the last
Mhm.
5-10 minutes because of just the pacing and how good the story is, and I'm like really convicted with all these characters at this
Yeah,
point, sort of thing, like you're really moving me.
yeah.
And for me that really worked. So you said you gave it a 90.
Yep.
Okay, let me put that in my calculator. So you gave it a 90. I'm gonna give it a 96. Divide that by 2. We got ourselves a 93. So an A, baby, an A
Yeah.
episode. I love it. I love it. Let me go ahead and write that down. So we give that what, a 93?
Yep.
All right, man. I think that might be literally the first. Is that the first A we've dished out? I don't know. I have to.
I think that's the first app since I've been doing these with you.
Yeah, I feel like that's the first A that we've dished out as a group for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, congratulations, Skeleton Crew. We should give them a round of applause. I need like a round of applause sound bite is what I need. But good
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, like I said, I think this episode really it just really worked with me for whatever reason this week. Maybe, but yeah, yeah. Like I said, when you were asking cons, I don't have any because it would just be nitpicking for the sake of nitpicking.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But look, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, we always want to know your A plus opinions. What would you grade this particular week's episode? We definitely want to know in the comment section box below. That will wrap it up for us here today. But we will be back next Wednesday. We're supposed to have the full Jedi Council here next week, so you should be getting a lot of great perspectives, certainly from everybody else on the crew, with Stuart and Crystal certainly joining us. But myself and Will definitely be back to go ahead and break down episode 4 for you guys. So certainly stay tuned. Will, if people want to follow you on social media, man, where can they find you?
Yes, you can follow me on all the socials. My handle is at Will M Polk. That's WILLMPOLK. You can also find our show, Seen a Nerd, on all the socials as well. Twitter, we're at Seen a Nerd. On Instagram and Threads, we're at Seen underscore N underscore Nerd. We're also on Blue Sky now. Again, at Seen a Nerd at bluesky.social. And of course, you see our website there, www.scenanerdpodcast.com. We're continuing on our. This week we discussed Dune Prophecy Episode 4, our finished out Superman and Lois, and gave some thoughts on Golden Globes and some of the Marvel and Star Wars news that dropped this week. And also, we'll be doing a Star Trek show, my Blur Trek show this week as well. Having the author David Tyler Attico coming on to talk about his book, the autobiography of Ben Cisco, and a podcast that he's the one called "Soul of the Story." So check us out. We're doing a lot of fun things over on our page. And thank you again, Adam, for having me on APlus.
Of course, man. Always fantastic to have you here, Will, for sure. I love to see all the fantastic things you guys are doing over there as well. So follow them, guys, if you certainly have not yet. If you want to follow us on social media, everywhere at A Plus Opinions. We're also over on Blue Sky at heroreport.bsky.social. And if you want to follow us on TikTok too, at Hero Report, but everywhere else on social media at A Plus Opinions. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit that subscribe button, man, along with that bell notification. So when we drop brand new videos, you'll certainly be notified about it. If you love Star Wars, Marvel, DC, any other nerdy fandoms and franchises, certainly go ahead and give us your subscription. We definitely would certainly appreciate it. But that will do it for us here, man. We'll certainly see you guys next Wednesday live at 10 p.m. Central Time. But until then, do me a big favor, as always, guys. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. May the force be with you. We'll talk to you later. Bye.